Hey, in this video I want to recap everything PHP performance related that I saw and discussed during SymfonyCON in Amsterdam, which was a few weeks ago. This is also going to be the last video of this year, and we will pick up in January with more topics about PHP performance. We recently had our team event here in Bonn and planned the next few months of content ahead. It's really going to be great. SymfonyCON in Amsterdam is also a celebration of 20 years of Symfony, and that's an amazing accomplishment. I want to start with a few impressions of the location because the location is really amazing in Amsterdam. It's like right in the city center next to the train station. It has this huge halls which can fill like over 1,000 people, and the conference had 1,200 people, and also this super big exposition hall where there was all the vendors and the food. So I really like this location. It's like really bombastic. So for 20 years of Symfony, there was no new elephant. I only have this 15 years elephant. But there was this really amazing comic book about the history of Symfony. It's called 2 Decades of Symfony Built to Last, and it has the story of Symfony and all the different things that happened. I really loved going through it and seeing everything that also I was connected to the initial Symfony 2 works and stuff, remembering how everything worked and everything sort of came to place. There was some time to get other elephants, so I got this FrankenPHP elephant here. That's a really cool one. And also I got a PHP Storm elephant. Thank you to Romain and Brent who gifted it to me. And if you have been a close watcher of the latest videos, you also know that there's going to be a Tideways elephant. So we have this small Tideways elephant which arrived here in Germany a few weeks ago. And there's also a big brother or sister, if you want. And sort of coming around the 20-year anniversary of Symfony, next year Tideways has its 10-year anniversary, and this is where we are going to send out these elephants to customers, partners, and friends alike. So stay tuned for elephants. Let's start with the conference and the talks that I watched. So there was the keynote from Fabien about 20 years of Symfony, where he sort of connected all the dots and also released Symfony 8.0 on stage and sort of showed his process and like how everything sort of folded together. He also talked about Symfony and AI and some ideas about like how this might come together. And overall, I think like it was a great keynote which showed sort of like the progress of Symfony and where it's heading. From a performance perspective, I want to talk about 4 talks or 5, let's see, 5 talks. And I will give you like a slight overview or point you to different resources on those talks to give you an idea about what I learned about PHP performance or what PHP performance topics we saw at the conference. So the first talk is 2025 Performance Milestone for the Symfony ecosystem from Antoine Bluchet. He works on the API platform team and also, I believe, on the Symfony team. So he has a lot of knowledge about these two. And this talk was also about FrankenPHP and these integrations. So I found a Reddit post from my Kiwi who collected all the different talks and links to slides and stuff. So you can find his GitHub repository like SymfonyCON 2025 talks. And there is this talk here. It also has the slides of Antoine's talk. I want to go through it like very quickly and just show some stuff. So one thing that he brought to mind was like the PHP dumping optimization. This is going to be something I want to talk about next year as well. So PHP has this pattern where parts of the application generate other PHP code that is then efficiently stored in opcache and executed. that can either be PHP code generating other PHP code, or sort of configuration being sort of translated into PHP code. And Symfony uses this pattern quite extensively, and Antoine was showing this, or sort of like reminding everyone that like dependency injection, config, routing, twig, expression language translation, and cache are using this pattern. And it's a great pattern to make PHP applications faster, and Symfony really has mastered it by compiling the dependency injection container. And this is something I want to take up next year and talk about and show you. He also talked about the JsonStreamer component, which is new in Symfony 7.3. It allows you to stream JSON, so large object structures can be streamed to JSON, which makes it much faster than serializing it using the JSON encode function. It requires less memory and is also faster. So he has this benchmark showing that serialize sort of like has 1 megabyte of throughput, and the JsonStreamer has 2.2 or 2.7 megabytes, so 2.7 megabytes more of throughput. Also the time to first byte obviously is much quicker, because you can start sending out the first part of the JSON document and then stream the rest. He showed some performance like improvements on that in Blackfire, and also sort of the caveats or downsides of this. Yeah, so FrankenPHP is now part of the PHP Foundation, so that's the great topic of 2025. So FrankenPHP will be sort of more public and more available to a lot of people now. So he showed a little bit of FrankenPHP and sort of a benchmark that was made comparing FrankenPHP and PHP FPM. And the difference here is FrankenPHP, as you might know or not know, has this classic mode. Classic mode is very comparable to PHP FPM. It also follows the shared nothing principle. And then also it has the worker mode. The worker mode allows you to run multiple PHP requests in sequence in the same process without restarting sort of the PHP engine, reusing state from the requests before. So that's a very architecturally different approach of running PHP. So, and as to be expected, and we also showed this in our FrankenPHP versus PHP FPM video, PHP FPM in Nginx is similar to FrankenPHP classic mode. So the performance is very comparable. You can see the video on our channel that shows like a little bit more in detail how it's similar and where differences are. Where FrankenPHP gets much faster is when you run it in worker mode, and that is to be expected. You don't need to bootstrap the application over and over again. You only bootstrap it once and then reuse it. Also, latency decreases in this case with the worker mode, also makes sense because you don't have the bootstrap. Then he links to a discussion on the FrankenPHP project about the performance of classic mode versus PHP FPM, also referencing our YouTube video and blog post about it, and sort of like some very deep dive into specific things where as the end result they found a way to improve FrankenPHP classic mode and Caddy Go in general by sort of improving latencies of like under duress. So tail latencies can be improved by that. And I'm happy to see how this improves the benchmark. We might redo the benchmarks in the future because of this. Though, again, even with this change, I don't expect the difference between PHP FPM and FrankenPHP Classic Mode to be significantly different. Architecturally, it should be the same. So there's really no reason why this should be different. The reasons where FrankenPHP can shine, specifically with respect to performance, is that you can write extensions in Go. Go is much more suitable to write for like a vast amount of developers than C. So it's easier to write an extension in Go than in C and like benefit from the raw performance difference between PHP and Go code. And Antoine showed like how he did this with sort of like generating QR codes and how it's much faster to do it with like a native extension than doing it with a PHP-based implementation. So that was his talk. The second talk that had a performance background was From Runtime to Resilience, Scaling PHP by Paul Dragoonis. I wasn't able to see this talk because I went to a different talk, also performance related, but I want to point out his repository, Dragoonis SymfonyCON 2025 Scaling, where he has like a demo application that shows a way to set up the PHP application for large scale and good performance. He documents it here and shows the different sort of parts this application has. Specifically, he showed FPM and FrankenPHP both, so you can take a look at that, and also integrating into sort of metrics stacks. For this, you can scroll down a little bit. There's a page that shows FPM configuration. We also have a bunch of blog posts on the Tidebase blog on FPM configuration, what you can do to optimize that. A second page about the PHP INI with opcache configuration and other important performance-related settings. And then the thing that I found quite interesting, the metrics endpoint and export. So one thing he showed is that he has a metrics endpoint to export, and he exports opcache related information in a Prometheus compatible format. And this is quite cool because that is not something that PHP has built in natively at the moment. So what he does in this Symfony demo application, he has a metrics controller. And the metrics controller, using opcache get status, returns sort of various different metrics in the Prometheus text format, so the plain text format. And then you can hook it into Prometheus and send it up to a metrics collection tool like Grafana. The third talk I watched is Clickhouse for Symfony developers. And the reason I did that is that Clickhouse is a very efficient time series database that allows to store data in a columnar way, not in a row-based way. And there's like a lot of improvements this has for performance for time series. So if you're collecting data based on time, then you can efficiently do that with Clickhouse. And recently, like a lot of companies are using Clickhouse to store performance data, analytics data, logging data, and all this kind of stuff. And I was interested in Clickhouse for a long time. So you even find like sort of like ideas and thoughts I had about Clickhouse like on the early repository. I've always been watching this because I found it might be interesting to use in Tidebase internally. So up until today, we still use Elasticsearch because we have a very elegant way of pre-aggregating the data inside sort of the satellite daemon agent structure on our customer servers. So a lot of the benefits of Clickhouse are sort of the efficient way of inserting data and then immediately aggregating it. But since we do this step already in our architecture much earlier, we already store aggregated data. And so we do that in Elasticsearch. And we never had a reason to migrate to Clickhouse because it's already quite fast and efficient for us. So Romain had a demo application for his talk, Clickhouse Symfony SymfonyCON, where sort of he showed how to implement a very simple sort of Blackfire clone using Clickhouse and Symfony. So Romain is working on the Blackfire team at Upsun. And let me look a little bit at how it works. So he has different commands here about filling tables. Let me look. So I didn't find the slides for his talk, so it was a bit easier to see there. So one thing he said about using Clickhouse was that Clickhouse uses an SQL syntax. So the syntax is SQL-like, but you communicate with it using HTTP. And if you insert data, which is sort of the main operation in a columnar database, then you always should do it in batches. So he was saying like around 1,000 rows at the time. And to make that possible, you have to have like a message queue set up. So his example has a message monitoring data, and then he has a handler as well. And the way it works, it buffers the data, and then it flushes the data every once in a while, doing an insert by directly sort of importing JSON into the database. So that was quite interesting to see how they use Clickhouse to store monitoring data. So the fourth talk that I watched that was performance related was the talk about Symfony and Rust, accelerating hot paths with FFI by Mitchel Vroege. And he had an example application where he showed how he replaces PHP code with Rust code. So he had two simple functions, and the main idea was just to show how it works, how you can use the FFI extension in PHP, which allows you to include foreign functions. So the way it works is you sort of declare a header and then load a shared object. And Michael showed in this talk how you can compile Rust code to sort of output a shared object, what you need to do to make it callable from the FFI extension. And I think that was great to see. He had some caveats and mentioned that there are only a few use cases to do that. In this case, because it required sort of a lot of the logic to be on the Rust side and then return like simple data structures back to the PHP side. So it's only sensible to do this if you have like very slow PHP code that is sort of encapsulated, a big bunch of logic, maybe mathematical computation, some algorithm that performs work. So one thing that he mentioned a little bit, but extra Rust PHP was also that there is this second way of building PHP extensions in Rust. And that's quite interesting, and I played around with this as well a few times before, and I hope to make a video about this next year. So that is interesting, and hopefully I think it has more applications than doing it via FFI, because FFI by default is not enabled in web context, and it has some security implication to do that. It's a bit complicated to use compared to this approach. So the last performance-related talk I went to is my own talk. So I had a talk about native lazy objects and how they will change Doctrine and Symfony forever. So this is me on stage giving this talk, and in this talk about native lazy objects, I sort of summarized the 3 videos that I made on this channel on native lazy loading, a PHP 8.4 feature, how we integrated it into Doctrine, how it was integrated into Symfony, maybe how it will improve Magento, and sort of weave a story about this and show how this feature works and improves the PHP community and ecosystem. You can find the slides for this talk in the description, and also the videos on the channel, obviously. Just to go through the slides a little bit, so one thing I want to highlight is I talked about how code generation was used to implement proxies since 2010 in Doctrine, the downsides of code generation, and then also the history in Doctrine, Proxy Manager, Symfony, and then at the end in PHP, making this feature happen. If you're interested in watching the talks, the Symfony page has sort of a way to watch the replays. It's a paid option, but then you can sort of watch the different talks of the conference. This is my recap of SymfonyCON 2025 in sort of terms of PHP performance. Outside of that, I had a lot of fun, met a lot of cool people, friends, and new people. And I would like to especially thank the Symfony team because they put on like a really great conference with a lot of attention to detail that I wasn't used to before. So it was really a perfect conference. And also the 20-year of Symfony celebration party on the Thursday evening, like this was really great. And I had it was really great to be there. So thank you for watching this video, and also thank you for being a part of this in 2025. I hope to see you next year, and if you want to make sure that you don't miss a video, please subscribe to the channel. You can also click a link in the description to our newsletter, subscribe to the newsletter, where we send you information about the new videos and also other technical blog posts. And then I wish you very great holidays and hope that you get into the next year, and we'll see each other there. Bye.